So this is my little area where I grow things. I know this might look like I don't know, expensive or fancy or what. I don't know. It's a bit of a mess. But all this is we had some utility shelves from other things. And so there was one we weren't using, so I put this here. And this is actually like, white bed sheets. I did put Mylar in here, but I have since found out that white actually holds the light into a grow tent better than the Mylar does. As you can see, I still have some Mylar, but the idea is to make as much use of your grow lights as possible. So I do have these grow lights. I have gotten like 2 grow lights every year, 1 or 2 grow lights every year. They aren't particularly expensive, and they aren't even all the same brand. I just buy what I can find on sale, and sometimes there's just really good sales, like, lightning deals on Amazon. So all of these were in the $30 to $40 range. And when you consider how much one plant costs you at a nursery, then you can see why having a grow light is actually pretty cost effective. So these are all of my trays. I think the one that I was working on the other day might have been this one. I'm not sure, but I'm going to open the lid on this one. I do have different size pots. Actually, this one might be good. Depending on what I'm growing, I use different size pots because certain things just don't need as much room. So in here is a bunch of basil and some eggplant and peppers. And they're just like that. So that's what the dome looks like. You can get those at Bootstrap Farmer as well. Although I think a lot of these were kind of the cheapy domes. The strength of the dome is not as important as the strength of the tray, because you have to lift the tray up with a lot of heavy plants in it and water. So it has a lot more stress on it. The domes, there's not really a lot of stress on them, so you can kind of get away with something cheaper. But they do have them at Bootstrap Farmer. And then underneath that is, this seedling mat. They don't get very hot. They're not the same thing as heating mats like what you use for your mussels. They don't get near as hot as that. If you use a heating mat, you are probably going to cook them. So these are specifically for seedlings, plus they're waterproof, which is important. And then I have all of these just on, power strips. And then I have it set to a timer so I don't have to worry about it. You can kind of see, I think it's on for, about 14 hours or something right now a day. And that's about it. I will say one thing: when you are starting seeds, things like tomatoes and eggplants really do well with bottom heat. Tomatoes, you can go either way. Eggplant and peppers, you absolutely need bottom heat or you're just not going to have success with them. They're really picky about that. But then you have other plants like cabbage and broccoli. I don't always start that indoors. A lot of times I start it outdoors. But if I have really expensive seed, like my purple cauliflower is pretty expensive, I usually start that indoors. But you really have to make sure it is not on a seedling mat, because certain seeds will not germinate if it is too warm. Some of them really need the cold. So know your seed. Like if you look at the package, it'll tell you what temperature the soil should be for germination. And these seedling mats usually keep the seeds at around 75 degrees. But if it's something like cabbage or cauliflower or broccoli, it's going to be something more like 55 degrees. And if that's the case, make sure you don't have it on a seedling mat. So what I do is I keep my trays. I don't have necessarily all of one thing on one tray, but I do make sure that all the things I have on a tray are either something that need a mat or don't need a mat. Because I have limited space on my mats, so I make sure that anything that really needs a mat is all just together, and I'm not like wasting space or putting a seed in there that's not even going to grow if it's on a mat. So that's the end of that story, I guess, as far as like what it looks like when it's all put together. You just want to come down here every once in a while and check and make sure that there's enough water in there. You should see some humidity in the dome. And if you don't, like this one doesn't have a lot of humidity, tomorrow, they're not dry now, but tomorrow I'll probably come and maybe add just a tad bit of water. So that's all.